Hey there, friendos, Fredo Supreme, the American Dream here, and this is the first Let's Play I've ever done, which is of Alpha Protocol, one of my favorite stealth games. If you're wondering why I chose this one specifically, it's because, for some reason, I seem to have something of a soft spot for this game. Anyways, a little backstory as to how I found out about it. I was watching this web series on Machinima, 10 for the win. In fact, that's where my "Hey there, friendos" catchphrase comes from. It's what Steve always said at the beginning of every episode. And I saw this on their top 10 best worst games list. I'll probably try to provide a link to the video in the description, possibly. And it was number 9. And I noticed something that it was a stealth action game, not exactly the sort of thing that I'm used to playing a lot. I mean, I have played Deus Ex Human Revolution. I have played and completed Hitman Blood Money and Hitman Absolution. But this one, it seemed kind of like, how do I put this? If Deus Ex was made by Telltale, or Dontnod, kind of the same thing. Anyways, I decided to check it out, and for whatever reason, I fell in love with it from day one. Something about the conversational feedback, like +1 reputation. Anyways. And the fact that it kind of reminded me of Mass Effect was also something of a big selling point for me. So I decided to give it a whirl. Stuck with it. Ended up liking it. However, something that I'm kind of disheartened me about it was the fact that it didn't get a sequel, which is sad because this game is pretty good to stand on its own. Well, standing on its own, it's good, but a sequel would have been interesting, when we get to those sorts of things in the later parts of the playthrough, I'll be sure to bring some of those up. Stuff that could have been answered in the sequel. Anyways, I'll pipe down now so you can watch the rest of this in sort of peace and quiet. By the way, I hate to break my own rule about the peace and quiet that I just mentioned, like 15 seconds after bringing it up, but those shots of the missile they were just doing, they kind of reminded me of those, of the part of True Lies when the terrorists are filming their demands videotape and they're showing off the bomb. Almost considered making a reference to it, but then again, I don't know how many of you watching still remember True Lies. By the way, True Lies is a good movie. Y'all should watch it. Why is that lighter blue?
If anyone is to blame for these events, Mr. Thornton, it is you. Alpha Protocol began here, after all.
And with that little, and on that note, we begin. Personally, I'm kind of okay with these sorts of danger room cold opens like this.
Hit by a freight train.
Kind of adds a little bit of suspense, as long as you have no idea what happened beforehand as to why they're in there. And thus begins the ballad of the coolest mind in the world, a Michael Thorton. Why did I just throw an A on all of those to emphasize them? Oh, but first, be sure to pick up this off-brand T-Mobile sidekick.
Good. You're awake. I wasn't sure how long you'd be under. Those tranquilizers wore off fast.
Where am I?
You're locked in our medical bay. And when the guards find out you've regained consciousness, they'll put you under again.
Don't want that. Any reason why you're helping me?
Mina. Let's just say I'm not a fan of the indoctrination procedure here.
All the more reason to leave, then.
And how do you propose to do that? You're locked in. There's a guard outside. Eventually he's going to come check on you. And when he does...
Can you distract the guard? Unlock the door.
I could. A glitch in the security panel in the hall outside might do it. As long as you don't make too much noise when you leave, you might take him by surprise while he's checking it. Disabling the security system now. The door should be unlocked.
You may have noticed that in the initial conversation I picked professional twice. If you take the same stance twice in that little opening dialogue with Mina, then you'll get a perk based on your decision. Like, I picked professional twice, and that gives me a +5 to my endurance. Had I picked the aggressive option twice, then that would have given me a +1 to my melee damage. And if I picked suave twice, personally my favorite because I love being a snarky type, that would have given me a 20% faster cooldown rate on my abilities. We'll get to those in a minute. You may be wondering why I'm putzing around here instead of taking out the guard. It's because I was attempting to get through this little tutorial sequence, first half of the tutorial sequence anyways, without even touching any of the guards, because there's a little bit of dialogue from another one of the guards and also another piece from Darcy during the actual training segment, where they both chastise you for using force on the guards like that. I was just seeing if I could do it. I don't think you can.
You need to shut off the alarm. The panel's on the wall. Mike, careful. Do a bypass on it. They probably have a guard in the lobby.
Now that little panel thingy right there, that hacking sequence, it kind of, well, personally, I enjoy the hacking in this game. It's just that some aspects of it could have been handled a little bit better. Like, for, say, hacking things in Sleeping Dogs. That one's a little bit more immersive. Like, instead of handling a lock on a safe the same way you'd handle a lock on a door, you instead turn the little knob until it gets in the right position, then you go the other way, and then back the initial way, and then you're done. And meanwhile, for picking actual locks, you just use the sticks and flicked it to set and move the pins. Meanwhile here, well, we'll get to that as soon as I actually have to pick a lock on a door. Now, in case you're wondering, I could have done a Deus Ex Human Revolution style cover-to-cover transition by holding left on the left stick and pressing X, but unfortunately, not only is it noisy, it also puts Michael in a standing position, which basically means not stealth mode. I really wish I could have found a better way to phrase this. Also, something else I like about this game is how shooting out the security cameras causes an alarm to go off. Kind of like in No One Lives Forever. I like that. It's a nice, realistic take on if the security cameras suddenly went broken.
He just got here. Who cares?
You'd be having guards sending some dudes down there to check things out. It would be a lot more noticeable than, say, GoldenEye Reloaded. By the way, those side rooms I just walked past, there was nothing in them, right now anyways. And here is the lockpicking that I was talking about that I like comparatively less than Sleeping Dogs. Much like Sleeping Dogs, you have to move the pins and set them in the correct location. The only difference is here, when you try to set a pin in an incorrect spot, it actually kills how much time you have left to finish the job. Meanwhile, in Sleeping Dogs, it just moves you back a notch. I also don't like how it requires you to use L2 and R2, because I have a wired controller that's off-brand. It wasn't made by Sony, some third-party company, actually.
And guards at the exit.
And
try to stay out of sight if you can.
And as a result, it only seems to have, like, 2 or 3 squeeze positions. Really wish I knew good terminology for this bit. As to how much pressure you're applying to the L2 and R2 buttons. It's basically like using a PS2 controller with the pressure-sensitive buttons, only difference is this controller in question is a little bit worn out. The PS2 controller, I mean, not the wired one I have. So you may notice there seems to be a radar icon right next to our ammo counter and in the top right corner of the screen. This is called Awareness, and it's basically Alpha Protocol's version of a radar. Personally, I have a hard time playing without it because You never know if there's any guards trying to sneak up on you if you happen to make a little too much noise beforehand. By the way, if we didn't invest any points in the stealth skill tree, then we would still have awareness, but it's just 15 seconds as opposed to the 60-second basic awareness level that you're seeing right now and just fizzled out. By the way, in my initial playthrough of this, well, my dry run for the Let's Play, I attempted to use silent running to get past that first guard, but it didn't work out, and long story short, I ended up alerting everybody in that room and the guard in this room, which also somehow managed to spawn another one. By the way, this is something that I think is, by the way, this bit right here, this type of hacking, it's not in Sleeping Dogs, mainly because whenever you hacked something, Wade just hooked his phone up to a device and you had to guess 4 numbers. That I kind of like a little bit better than the spasticness, sorry if I offended anybody with usage of that word, of all the computer code changing left and right. Well, I've also heard that the PC version is comparatively worse because you don't use the mouse to move the lines of code around, rather you have to use the keyboard. Does not exactly help when you have to deal with the spasticness of the changing words, but still, man, I've got to improve my commentary. And
all right, Mike, that's enough.
Got that right, Uncle Ruckus.
That's enough? I think that's my line. What the hell's going on? Why did you drug me?
We need to get the location of this facility confidential, especially if you got kidnapped and questioned.
You could use some lessons in hospitality. I'll forgive you, this time.
Gracious of you.
So this is how the conversation is gonna go. You, me, video screen.
Yep, I'm gonna ask you some questions, run you through some more tests, then you and I can talk. Face to face. That make you feel better?
I don't need any more tests, and you know it. Just give me the mission and let's do this.
Good to hear. I was a little worried. You need some more time to recover. Still, we need to brief you on your gear, weapons, and your security clearance. Won't take long. I've been reading and rereading your dossier. Your file makes you seem more like a tourist than an agent. Your passport must have been stamped twice over.
The stamps are just for show. I can't confirm or deny I was ever in any of those places, nor were there any witnesses.
Well, I hope you like going where it's hot. And I'm not talking about hell, but someplace close to it.
I thought I was already there.
Spoken like a man who doesn't care about his career. Good. If you gain more experience in the field, you may want to specialize further. But we can leave that until you've got some missions under your belt. That's it. Now I'm gonna let you out of the pen here and meet the rest of the crew.
All right. Is there anything I should know?
Nothing you can't find out on your own, and from the staff here. They'll be running you through the basics of weapons, gadgets, and espionage tactics. When you're cleared on the basics, come find me for your assignment. I won't lie to you, Mike. It's a big one, and dangerous. But I think you're the man for the job. Make the rounds. I'll see you soon.
And with that, we finished the first half of the tutorial sequence of Alpha Protocol. But first I am going to do a little bit of upgrading my skills. Here I'm finally adding a 5th point to my stealth tree, which means that my awareness is always active. I also put a little in pistols because those are my favorite weapon on account of how they're so versatile. And the fact that they're also the only weapon that you can buy a silencer for. I mean, you can get silenced rounds for the assault rifle, but we'll get to why I don't like the assault rifle in a later part. Overall, this game kind of starts out kind of slowly, cavalcade of tutorials, and a somewhat cliched plot in the first place. But once you finish up this little mission that Mr. Westridge is sending you on, you'll find out that this game gets way crazier, way faster, and you'll love almost every second of it. By the way, if you're wondering why I referred to Westridge as Uncle Ruckus before he started debriefing Mike right there, it's because Gary Anthony Williams, Westridge's voice actor, is also the voice of Uncle Ruckus in the Boondocks cartoon that was on a few years ago. And with that, we wrap up the first part of the Alpha Protocol Let's Play. If you're wondering why I was doing post-commentary, it's because in the aforementioned dry run, my skills were not on point, to say the least. Figured this might be a little bit easier for me to do. Sorry if my commentary sounds a little bit stilted, kind of new at the whole Let's Play game. Maybe I might try to bring in a friendo or two to help me out a little bit, make this sound a little bit less stilted and such. And that is where we shall conclude for today. I'm Fredo Supreme, the American Dream, realizing that Let's Plays are a smidge harder than I thought they'd be. Holla at y'all later.